this kind of really intensive practice is very rare. And I was reading this thing in the New York Times, I think. There's some psychologists or something were saying boredom is really good because boredom makes us do something. When we get really bored, then we think of something to do, and that's good. And then he said, nobody likes to just sit still for 10 minutes. I thought, oh boy, you don't know my life. But that's not true. There's lots of people who go to the beach and sit and look at the beach for 10 minutes and don't get bored. I just, whoever that is must be hard to live with. And then I was thinking, great, we're all scurrying around like little mice because we're bored and we have to come up with something to do. We're just using up all our resources, making more and better stuff. But anyway, for us, of course, sitting still, that's what we do for hours. And in fact, yeah, boredom certainly happens in session. But lots of things happen. It's a rich field. The Pascal, I just looked at it because I was interested to see how Dogen Zenji talked about samadhi. I never read this, the king of samadhi. Oh my God, it sounds like a Lotus Sutra. And he talks about rising above all the regular people. And I mean, I couldn't begin to talk about it because it seems so dualistic, which of course Dogen was not. But the grandeur, the magnificence, and like the Lotus Sutra, even if you just peeked at it, all the different beings and colors and flower petals, and our consciousness is fascinating for those of us who like to sit. And it's also an adventure to go into the shadow, explore the shadow. Is, well, Jung said that's the exploration place now, is internally. Of course, we're still out there with our little rockets and stuff, running around, spending money. I have an opinion about, as long as people are hungry, I don't think you should go around with your rockets. My own opinion. It's just my opinion. But anyway, Jung said the great exploration is interior. And there just can't be a better way to do that than session. I can't imagine, because we just sit down and do that. We just sit down and watch what comes up. But anyway, why do we do that? I was fiddling around with this whiteboard. I'm probably going to abandon it. Sorry, it showed up at lunch, but I was worried I'd lose it. That's why I left it up and I forgot about lunch. But I didn't lose it. Here it is. So here's the koan. Reverend Ma, who is Baso Matsu Daiyu, great Zen master. Actually, they say he's the first person who used the word Chan. He is supposedly a successor of the sixth ancestor. So in the beginning of Chinese Zen, Chan, but one of the Kuroda scholars said they don't think he was. That at that time the history wasn't good enough. But anyway, great teacher. And he's one of the characters, and the other is Nangaku. Oh, wait a minute. Vice versa. Nangaku is the descendant of the sixth ancestor. So Nangaku is the teacher here in this story. And Baso is Nangaku's successor, and became a great teacher. I think two of the great lineages come out of Baso, including ours. Baso was sitting, and Nangaku took a tile and sat on the rock facing him, rubbing it. And Baso asked, "What are you doing?" And Nangaku says, "I'm rubbing the tile to make it a mirror." And Baso said, "How can you make a mirror by rubbing a tile?" Nangaku said, "If I can't make a mirror by rubbing a tile, how can you achieve Buddhahood by sitting in meditation?" So there's another symptom of the COVID is itchy eyes. It's the weirdest thing. Anyway, excuse me, my itchy eye. How can you achieve Buddhahood by sitting in meditation? Because who you are is Baso, regular person Baso. So it's as easy to become Buddha by sitting as it is to turn a tile into a mirror. And the kind of standard way we look at this is, of course, as you are is Buddha. Whatever you want to say it, true self, one body, that's what you are. So it doesn't have anything to do, as Dogen said, with sitting or lying down or walking. It's just the truth. And at some point, we realize that. We can realize that. At any point, we can realize that. So then why do we sit? We sit because we don't see it. And this is over the ages, this has come up with how we, a good way to realize true self, which is to just be quiet with ourselves and just see what's really there and quit thinking and quit running all of our agendas and just be quiet with ourselves. At some point we'll see it. That's the standard way that we see this koan. But it's actually way more complicated than that, of course. And what I really wanted to talk about is Dogen's commentary on it, which is how Dogen puts the koan. A long time ago, Baso was training under Nangaku. Nangaku privately imparted the mind seal to him, which is transmission, which is you have my mind. So mind seal is the seal on the document of the transmission document. You have my mind, which is the mind of the Buddha, which is the handed down. See, all these words are difficult. It's always here, but the feel is acknowledging that. What is always there, you have experienced, as I have. And it says this occurred just before this incident, which is interesting because this is Baso's great enlightenment. So he received transmission before his great enlightenment, which is pretty common. Like Dogen's great enlightenment came after he received transmission from his Rinzai teacher. Still wasn't satisfied, even though he'd received transmission. So he went to China, and there he had this great opening where he said body and mind completely dropped away. Body and mind completely dropped away. So it's pretty usual that people will have transmission, and then, I mean, it's not pretty, it's of course true that our understanding deepens and opens the more we practice. That's why there isn't an end point to practice. There's always more. More what? Just kind of cleaning up the cobwebs, getting the karma out of the way enough to see who we are. So here's how he does this koan. Baso had been doing seated meditation day in and day out for some 10 years or more. Myself, I believe it was 15 years before I had transmission. And that's 15 years of sitting an hour and a half in the morning, sitting an hour and a half in the evening, a session a month, a week session every once in a while, one ongo or two ongos a year, which is 90-day intensive sitting. A lot of sitting. So why did I do that? I actually only once questioned it when in 82, when there was so much trouble with problems at the Zen Center. I thought, well, maybe, yeah, this is a cult, and I just got pulled into this out of ignorance. And so I stopped practice for a month, and I felt terrible. I wanted to go sit more. Anyway, the point is, the only awakening without a long, intensive practice was the sixth ancestor. And he awakened hearing the Diamond Sutra, right? But then he went and did intensive practice for the rest of his life. Because, yeah, it could happen anyway. It could happen without the long sitting. But 10 years is actually pretty short time for transmission. So anyway, Baso had been sitting for 10 years in this thatched hut, which Dogen says, imagine what that was like on a rainy night. I have a little, one of those palm tree top things that you drink margaritas under. I've never had a margarita under it. But when it rains, the rain comes through. And it is said that he never abandoned its freezing floor, even when it was enveloped in snow. So no matter what kind of weather, he kept practicing for 10 years. And one day, Nangaku came to Baso's hut, and Nangaku said, what have you been doing recently? Recently, I have been doing the practice of seated meditation exclusively. And what is the aim of your seated meditation? And Baso says, the aim of my seated meditation is to achieve Buddhahood. And I went back and looked up some of the stuff on effort. And because I talked about that when I talked about the Eightfold Path in the mental discipline, right effort. But in the Eightfold Path, they kind of, in right effort, they're stretching to let go of greed, anger, ignorance, to move to compassion, wisdom, and spaciousness, that kind of effort. The paramita is maybe more, I don't know, I just thought I'd read this to you. So the paramitas, I can't remember how many, kind of came out of the Eightfold Path. They came a little later, and they're, again, how to wake up. Paramita means get to the other side, get from the side of delusion, greed, anger, ignorance, boredom, to awakening, to realization of the oneness of all things and manifesting as the oneness of all things. So there's different ways to get to the other side. And this is effort, joyous effort. Refers to the enlightened qualities of energy, vigor, vitality, endurance, diligence, enthusiasm, as well as continuous and persistent effort. The essence of this paramita of joyous effort is, half of these words are Spanish because I have this little program, so I have to learn Spanish while I read it. El valor, which is courage, energy. The essence is courage, energy, steadfastness. To practice the Dharma consistently and to pursue the goal of awakening for the highest good of all beings. A feeling of deep compassion for the suffering of all sentient beings is what motivates us to expend persistent effort, esfuerzo, effort. Ideally, we use our body, mind, and speech mindfully to work for the benefit of others without expecting personal recognition or reward. To the best of our ability, we prepare ourselves to be of service. With joyous effort, devoted energy, and the power of sustained application, we're less likely to be sidetracked by distractions or laziness. Without the effort paramita, we may stop practicing whenever we meet with challenging conditions. It's virya. There's a lot of not English words in this. Virya means persistence and perseverance in the face of delusionment. Cultivating this kind of diligence helps us develop a strong, healthy mind. So that just really says it in terms of our session practice, I think, that we just keep on going for the sake of our awakening, I don't know how to make this stay here. Stay. There it is. For the sake of our own awakening and for the sake of others. And then the disillusionment that comes up when we're sitting, and that's what Buddha experienced too, when he decided, I'm just going to sit here till I see this, till I realize this. And you know, beautiful women came and tried to seduce him. And his brother came and said, the kingdom's at war, you have to go home it was cold. Birds made a nest in his hair. So it's that effort, paramita, that kept him going. So here, what is your aim? What are you efforting for? All you do is seated meditation for 10 years. What is your aim? Nangaku asks. What do you want? And Baso says the aim is to achieve Buddhahood. And of course, we know we're not supposed to have an aim. We're supposed to practice just for the sake of practicing. So even all the things I just read, to save sentient beings, all of our vows, the realization is it's all right here. It's all here. There's nothing to aim for. But Baso says, I'm aiming to be Buddha. And here is where Nangaku took the roof tile and began rubbing it. And Baso said, what are you doing? I'm polishing a roof tile. What are you going to make by polishing a roof tile? I am polishing it to make a mirror. How can you possibly make a mirror by rubbing a tile? How can you possibly make yourself into a Buddha by doing seated meditation? So it's the same poem, right? The thing is, Dogen sees it differently. I'm going to continue with this tomorrow. Okay, where is that? Here. For hundreds of years now, many people have held the view that in this story, Nangaku is earnestly endeavoring to encourage Baso in his practice. If great saintly teachers did not have the dharma of polishing a tile, how could they possibly have the skillful means to guide people? Having the strength to guide people is the bones and marrow of an ancestor of the Buddha. Even though the tile was the thing that came to hand, still it was just an everyday household object. If it were not, it would not have been passed on by the Buddha's family. So, I don't know if I'm giving it away, but Dogen, I feel, Dogen's expression is, of course, you're sitting to be Buddha. That's what we do. That's what right effort is. And just as you are as Buddha, but you need to sit to see it, a roof tile is Buddha. Everything is Buddha. So polishing a tile to make a mirror makes as much sense as sitting to become Buddha. And the mirror, I talked about this before and just kind of said mirror because you can't make a tile into a mirror, but mirror has a much bigger implication for Zen, for Buddhism. I think we talk about life as a mirror, or a mirror as an expression of our consciousness, our true self, because a mirror reflects everything perfectly. So anything that walks in front of a mirror is reflected exactly as they are. Things come into my consciousness and I've got opinions. I've got things I want to fix. I've got all sorts of stuff that goes on, judgment. But a mirror just sees everything clearly, just as it is. So to say the roof tile is a mirror is exactly what it is. The true nature of everything is to be a mirror of the universe. And the delusion is all the ideas and concepts and messing with that we have built up over years and years and years of karma. Like talking about he spent 10 years sitting, it's nothing compared to the thousands of years of karma that created Baso with all his stuff that he was able to see through. I guess with this happening, with this polishing the tile story. So he says, of course it's a household utensil. Of course it's just a piece of tile. It could have been anything. I mean, I see him kind of sitting in the woods by something that a tile's fallen off of. He just reached over and picked up the tile, or could have been a stone or a leaf. Could have been anything. But of course it was an ordinary thing in our life, because everything in our life is ordinary and completely extraordinary. So that's what I mean saying, certainly boredom happens in Seisen, but the whole wealth of the like the joyful samadhi of the universe is also right here where we're sitting. And that's what he's saying. Just in any ordinary object is that mirror that reflects the whole universe. And now we've got that picture. For some reason, I didn't put it on there, but every once in a while, Chrome puts up that picture when I go on the computer of, oh, that picture, you know the one I'm talking about with all the galaxies, and oh my God, it's just absolutely amazing, the vastness. And that's our life. That's our life. And then we're all messed up because the dog pooped on the porch again, which, by the way, I am upset about. But compared to the galaxies, it's very easy to just pick it up and forgive. So he says, of course it's a household thing. It would have to be, not anything special that came out of some other place than this. What is more, its impact on Baso was immediate. Be very clear about it. The functioning of the true transmission of Buddhas and ancestors involves a direct pointing. So it can't be explained, it can't be talked about. It's just pathetic how I'm talking about it. And Dogen does the most magnificent job of all, but still doesn't touch it. But it's the pointing of one teacher to another, of one practitioner to another, pointing to it like rubbing a tile. That is where the transmission happens. That's what Dogen says. We should truly comprehend that when the polished tile became a mirror, Baso became Buddha. And it was a mirror all along. But then there was that shift when everything became mirror and Baso became Buddha. And when Baso became Buddha, Baso immediately became the real Baso. And when Baso became the real Baso, his sitting in meditation immediately became real seated meditation. This is why the saying, polishing a tile to make a mirror, has been preserved in the bones and marrow of former Buddhas. This I love. And it sounds like, I mean, some of Dogen is like, what? Because it definitely comes from a different time, but this could be anybody today saying, when you sit, you become the real you, which you already were. But still there's a shift. So when Seisen sits, Seisen becomes the real Seisen. And meditation becomes real seated meditation. Or the notes that he's using, it's hard to know, because Zazen can be seated meditation and Shikantaza can be seated meditation. And he said, he being whoever translated this, said that some of the seated meditation is referring to Shikantaza. And Yoshin and I had a conversation about what Shikantaza is. I think I had it with a few of you, because I think coming from that, studying the right, the mental discipline of the Eightfold Path, that I was seeing what sometimes people call Shikantaza is more related to what they call mindfulness, including breath mindfulness. And I recall Yasutani Roshi in the Three Pillars says, when you do Shikantaza, you should be sweating from every pore of your body. So that made me think, well, Shikantaza is pointing to samadhi, which is the one of the mental discipline is effort, mindfulness, which is being aware of sensations, being aware of breath, feelings, etc. And then there's, no, I forgot the word, but concentration, which I called samadhi. And I was saying Shikantaza then is that samadhi, like what Dogen Zenji experienced, dropped off body and mind. So no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, from the Heart Sutra. So mindfulness meditation would be eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, but no attachment. It comes up, it leaves, it comes up, it leaves. Or it could be working with it. It could be no attachment, or it could be, I'm going to go into that and I'm going to do breath into the pain or whatever. So that kind of mindfulness. And then Shikantaza was like the samadhi. But then I think the translator here defines Shikantaza more like total awareness without any attachment. So not, like, oh, there's pain, let's be the pain and see what stories come up and things, but just pain, and then it leaves. And so I don't know what Shikantaza is, short answer. But this sitting meditation, when Baso became the real Baso, his sitting in meditation immediately became real seated meditation. And I think that's what we're struggling to define. What is that real seated meditation? I think it's all of them. Probably includes boredom. But it's as me, not trying to be someone else. The real basso, the one who's hurt, who's angry, who's proud, who's trying to get enlightened, and sitting with the truth. The first part of that is vowing to uncover the truth. So, gosh, when I start hurting or get into some icky shadow stuff, I will spend a lot of time trying to stay away from there and go to that nice place I was last sitting period. Go to that happy place that Jesus on my samadhi. Let's go there. I don't want to look at this fear, this, in the Christmas Carol, he said, an undigested piece of pork. I always think of that. It was some little karmic thing. And it could be something I ate or something I did that right now we're going to sit with it. Because that's what's coming up. And to accept that, that's the real Seisen meditation, is sitting with whatever is here and then don't hold on to it. Be willing to let it go, which is different from just don't go there. That can be repression, or just I'm going to dwell in this sticky thing. So be there and let it go. So anyway, I don't know what real seated meditation is, but Dogen says, when you are really you, really true to yourself, then sitting in meditation immediately became real seated meditation. And of course, from the standpoint of true self, when you realize true self, then what is sitting there is true self. So what is that? So that's why we sit. To polish a tile, make a mirror out of a tile. I don't know why we sit. Short answer. Okay, so we're winding down now. So appreciate everyone's practice and your effort, devotion, willingness to go where no man has gone before. Isn't that true? Or woman. So yeah, now it's easy to start getting giddy. I may be a little giddy. So a good time now, you've got all this samadhi build up. So you might as well spend it now and really sit with it and use that energy and that to go deep and see what is that real meditation, or to chill with it, to just sit and enjoy that samadhi. So anyway, keep on going a little bit more.